Today's episode is brought to you by applaudable.net.
That's what you find the best do. Like many of the best basketball players, they'll always tell you the non-playing season. Some people call it the off season. I call it the on season because the best players aren't off during that time. They try and bring one addition back to their game the following year. So that's getting them closer and closer to what they are capable of being, not just staying where they are.
Like, how do you arrive at those core values? Because you'd think those core values may be common, but depending on the type of organization that you're trying to create, that could be varied.
Yeah, I think there are certain commonalities. When you really like, I'll challenge your listeners. Have them write down on a piece of paper everything they value in life, in people they work with, and people they hang out with. They'll find there's more than two or three. Mm-hmm. Even though when the corporations, if you go on their websites and you see what are their core values, it's usually 4 or 5 or 6 because they think if there's too many. But just because integrity, work ethic, collaboration are values for that organization, so too is good guy, good person.
Yeah.
Like when I did my little own audit, I had 72 things that I value. But so could they be different? Yes, but I got to believe the most successful organizations probably have something, either honesty or integrity. That's one of their values. Probably a work ethic or some way they say it is another kind of value. Probably in today's world, the ability to communicate and collaborate might be a value for that organization. There probably are. Maybe it's these 6 for Company A. Company B has 4 of those 6 and 2 others. But I don't think all of a sudden you get to 7,000. Because I do think that there are certain things that have, like, how can't one of your values be something along the lines of integrity? Like, who would to buy a product or work for a company that just lives on lies?
Again, I think if you came to that little exercise you suggested of putting no in front of some of those values, what would that look like if you belong to an organization where you threw no in front of no integrity?
Great call.
Yeah. So one of the things that stood out to me when I had the privilege of watching you live was that you talked about, particularly with athletes, to focus on their abilities. Do you want to explain that concept of abilities?
Well, this is one where my wife says you can't use that. It's bilities is not a word, but as I often say, like Merriam-Webster, like who is that? I've never met that person, and they're allowed to put all these words together and say this is our dictionary of words. So I'm going to have the Kevin Eastman dictionary, and one of the words is bilities. And what I mean by that is if we take some of these things, and again, today maybe what I can do for your listeners is to stimulate their thinking, not give you all of them, but here are some of the abilities. Like I would venture a guess that everyone would agree that we want to work with and have people working in a team or an organization that believes in responsibility. They're going to buy into it and master this concept of responsibility. Another one is accountability. Another one is vulnerability. So as you can see, all these words end in ability. That's why I came up with the phrase, you have to master the abilities in order to really have a successful organization, or for that matter, to be a successful leader, or for that matter, to be a successful person. Like in sports, one of the abilities that's so crucial is availability. Who cares if Kevin Garnett is that good if he's always injured? He may be the most talented injured player that never plays, right? So they've got to be available. They have to be able to be there every night, to play every night, to practice. And just like you may have a great salesperson, and she or he could be the best in the company when they're there those 2 days every year, right? But the other days they're never there because they're sick or something's come up. they're never available. So that ability is really important. So I think maybe the listeners get a feel of what I'm talking about here and come up with their own abilities for their life, for their team if they're a leader, if they're a manager, for their little group they're managing, whatever the case may be.
One of your power words in the book is humility, and you talk about leadership and the need for, or not the need, it's a trait that the best of the best seem to possess, which is that they, as leaders, have humility. Do you want to expand on what that is from a leadership perspective?
Yeah, well, I think some people will take the word humility and they'll kind of pause a little bit and they'll think about it. And they'll say, okay, thinking less of myself, that's humility. And really it isn't. It's thinking of yourself less often, right? Mm-hmm. So where we think humility is important and a crucial part to the success of anyone, what you find is people who are successful is they don't think they have all the answers. They're always looking for that one more thing. And I think humility says, I don't have all the answers, but I am open and available to hear what they might be. And the best players, obviously we had an incredibly great player pass away Sundays ago in Kobe. And he maybe epitomized, he was on a constant search to seek and find new ways to do things, better ways to do things, better ways to say things to his teammate. When he went into his company with the storytelling and the filmmaking and the documentaries, he cold called, from what I understand, Steven Spielberg. Why? Because he's one of the best at what he does. So why not ask that person some questions? But he had the humility to say, I don't know this new thing I'm getting into. I like it. I'm passionate about it. I think I probably know more than the average person on the street, but I don't know near as much as you know, Steven Spielberg. Can you share some of your wisdom with me? So humility is not a negative thing. It's not a chink in your armor. As a matter of fact, I would say humility for a leader is like Velcro. Mm-hmm. You usually the people who follow usually stick to those leaders who are not only humble, but also vulnerable. Mm-hmm. So my thoughts on that.
You raised Kobe, obviously the reference to the passing of a great individual in our sport, which is very sad. But I actually spoke with Alan Stein on podcast, but he talks about Kobe's hyperfocus and how he had that focus on the basics, and also transferred that into the business realm, because you've had experience as well. I remember you talking of an experience where Kobe was watching a video game, and I think you were meant to head off somewhere with him.
In essence, Nike had brought us in to teach some really good players that they had together how to watch film. And when we were watching film, Kobe saw something on the film, and on the film was certainly not NBA players. They were players 1 or 2 levels below the NBA. But he saw something that he might be able to add to his game. And he wanted to stop it and take a peek at it. So we did. So then, but the lesson to the players was simply this. The best of the best, they don't care where they get their information from. If it can help them, they're all ears. They don't have the ego where just because it's a college player or a high school player that did that move, if they don't have it in their game and it can help them with their game, they don't care what level it came from. And the other great example of that is one of the key decisions that Steve Kerr made was to change the starting lineup. And you hardly ever do that in the NBA. Like that's almost taboo. He did it in the finals, and they inserted Andre Iguodala in place of Andrew Bogut, okay, who has the same accent as you guys do. Mm-hmm. So that idea actually came from one of his assistant coaches, the youngest guy on the bench, the youngest guy on the staff, who's not even on the front bench. Mm-hmm. He's on the back bench, is what they call it in the NBA. He gave that suggestion to Steve. Steve thought about it and said, you know what? He's right. And Steve, and humility, we talked about that earlier. Steve was humble enough that in the press conference, he recognized this young, up-and-coming assistant coach. He gave me the idea. Don't say I did it and it worked and we won a championship. It really didn't come from me. So the best of the best have open ears and open eyes to continue to learn.
So in that organization, obviously, that would have recognized, or that individual would have felt highly valued at that point in time, that he was heard and listened to. And I also know you have similar stories around that when you first entered the NBA and you weren't confident around whether you should be there or not, that you were questioning, do I belong here? And the apprehensiveness to even verbalize or say something from the sideline as an assistant with the Celtics. So what was that experience for you, and how did you come out of your shell to recognize that that you had value to deliver to the team, and that's why you're there?
Yeah, well, all of us are different in our makeup. And for whatever reason, anytime I go into something new, I'm going to prepare my tail off, study it to the nth degree so that I can prove that I belong there. But, probably if we went deep into the minds of many successful people out there, no matter what their craft, what their industry, we would probably find out that at some point there was a little seed of doubt. Can I do this? Even Kobe wasn't sure. You can read some articles that, gosh, I didn't know if this documentary was going to be any good. I put everything I had into it. So the thing that helped me get over the hump, and it was a leadership lesson on make sure your people know that you value what they bring. Doc Rivers one day, who's the guy I worked with in Boston, he asked his administrative assistant, Anne Marie, to come in and get Kevin because I want to see him. Well, when an administrative assistant comes and says, hey, Doc wants to see you, your mind can go a whole bunch of ways, like, this ain't going to be good. So, or I wonder what's he want me for, right? So then I walk in and he says, close the door. So then I thought, oh, man, so he didn't want anybody to hear this. So something is coming down, like it might be, a bowling ball going to roll me over here. So he says, hey, I want to get your opinion on something. So then I thought, wait a minute now, I'm the youngest guy, the newest guy in the coaching staff. I didn't play in the NBA. All the other assistants did. So I looked around the room like, who's he talking to? And then I saw I was the only one in the room. I said, oh, okay, you want my opinion? So I gave my opinion. And what he was really saying is, look, I value your thoughts. Tell me what you think. So from that point on, I knew that he knew I belonged. And sometimes in a leadership position, if you can get the people to believe in themselves as much as you believe in them, that's when a career can take off for somebody. So so that was kind of the impetus for me to be able to go out and feel confident. I knew stuff, but you can know a lot of stuff, and not always, but you still might be wondering, do I really belong? Like, this is my element. I guess it's that thing that people always talk about, being comfortable with being uncomfortable. But sometimes you need help with getting more comfortable.
Do you want to speak to, and I'm being conscious of your time here because we're coming up to 30 minutes, but the capability gap and what that actually means? Because I picked up that was one of the things that you'd spoken about. So what is the capability gap?
Well, I think many people who have gotten to a certain position, they have accomplished a decent amount. And maybe they have accomplished this, but what they're capable of accomplishing is this. So that gap in between there is what we need to have to try and fill as often as possible. It's easy to say each and every day, but as often as you can. How do you fill that? Maybe as an athlete, you get more repetitions on that particular skill. So you can become what you're capable of becoming, not stay where you are. For a young emerging leader, it could be that I'm a little deficient in presenting to the entire team, to the sales team. It may be that I don't write reports. It may be that I don't write whatever it is. You're capable of this. Continue to try and fill that capability gap each and every day, because that's what you find the best do. Like many of the best basketball players, they'll always tell you the non-playing season. Some people call it the off season. I call it the on season, because the best players aren't off during that time. They try and bring one addition back to their game the following year. So that's getting them closer and closer to what they are capable of being, not just staying where they are. You know, as I often say to young people, you come into your job with a great deal of passion. But if you try and live off your passion for your entire career, I'm not sure you will get to where you want to go. You also have to get some knowledge. And your knowledge has to meet up with your passion. That's when your career can take off. But for the other end of the spectrum, the older people, the ones who have been there for 25 years of grind, right? The same job, the same company each and every day. They have tremendous knowledge. They have tremendous experiences because they've been there that long. But maybe because of the grind, it's sucked a little bit out of them. So they're leaking the passion. So for them, the opposite is true. They have the knowledge, have leaked the passion. So if they want to go out on a good note whenever they retire, make sure the passion catches back up with the knowledge, because sometimes it can leak. I think as human beings, we all leak on certain days. We may leak discipline that day. We may leak a little bit of our focus that day. We may leak a little bit of effort. And we're human beings. We're not on every single day.
So your concept, I believe, of passion was it's where love for something meets purpose. Is that my understanding of your definition?
Yeah, that was P.J. Fleck,
Okay,
the head
yes.
football coach at the University of Minnesota, who, by the way, had an unbelievable year this year. You talk about passion. I mean, if you open up your dictionary right there at home, you'll see his face. I mean, he is that passionate about it. He just loves what he does. But he also is one that fills his capability gap, because he knows there's still more that he can do to help his team, help his players, help his staff, and also improve himself. So, I'm not going to take credit for that. That was PJ.
Okay. So, look, I won't hold you up anymore. I appreciate every moment you've given me today, and that you've made time to help me and my audience better understand ourselves and what the best of the best actually do. So, Coach Kevin Eastman, I really appreciate it. Thanks for your time.
Appreciate that, Craig. Thank you.
Thanks for joining us for a basketball conversation. Feel free to start a conversation of your own with other Ausswoosh superfans by commenting below. And I look forward to sharing our next conversation with you soon. I hope you'll join us again sometime. Catch you later.